So we're looking at delicious carbohydrates today. If we look at the study design, it's carbohydrates, formation of disaccharides from monosaccharides, and of complex carbohydrates, specifically starch and cellulose, as condensation polymers of monosaccharides. Glycemic links is just there on its own. Should be in there somewhere. They just got struggled. So glycolic links are part of our disaccharides, and storage of excess glucose in the body as glycogen. You're not comparing glucose, fructose, sucrose to artificial sweeteners. That's gone. So any mention of aspartate or anything like that, just ignore it. So you're just looking at these ones here. So carbohydrates. So protein, we were looking at, that's what the rock eats, tons and tons of. If you're muscly, you eat those. Carbs, you generally avoid them. If you're the rock, if you're everybody else, you love them. That's some of our favourite foods. They're what we kind of want to eat because they're so delicious. I keep flip-flopping between this alpha and beta. I'm going to mention it. I think you don't need to know it because of the isomers, but maybe I don't know. I'm going to include it anyway. We've got the 4 levels. Remember how sometimes you pick up these words and then that's it, you know what's going on. So mono is 1, di is 2, olig is about 3 to 10, and poly is many. So we've got 10 to about 1,000. Past that, we start to look at our complex carbohydrates, which we don't really need to know. So our carbs are organic molecules. We've got a carbon with an X and some water to the Y. This can vary depending on what it is, and that's our general format. This is the bit that blew my mind. Carbon, hydrate, water. I was this many years old when I heard that, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's the thing. So every day's a school day. So we start with our monosaccharides. So we've got these in our data book because there is no way anyone could remember these. Jesus. So there is our monosaccharides. These all have the formula C6H12O6, and the mass is about 180. So when we're looking at this alpha and beta, this is about the way that the some of these hydrogen oxygen groups are pointing. So they can either be pointing down or they can be pointing up. If we think of it as a 3D shape, it's going to be pointing up or down, and that's going to affect the bonding when they bond to each other. So it's going to be the ups and downs, gives us the same molecular mass and everything, but it's going to give you slightly different shapes, which is going to lead to some of our further things. They don't give you this galactose, so we've got 3 that we need to know: glucose, galactose, and fructose. Glucose is generally from plants. It's our table sugar. It's delicious. Fructose is becoming more common in like table sugars and things. This is the one that's becoming in our drinks and things. And then we're going to take these monomers, and we're going to put them together because we don't tend to just have glucose apart from like energy drinks. We tend to see them in other things, either as disaccharides too, or polysaccharides where we have lots and lots. So that is not what I just said. Right, so we use these monosaccharides to build disaccharides. So we have a condensation reaction, which is our loss of water, and we can make generally sucrose, maltose, or lactose. So sucrose. I'm gonna have to... Still not quite getting the bottom. Right, we have, if we have sucrose, that's our table sugar, comes from fruit or beets or some vegetables, fruits. Maltose is from barley. We use it to make beer, or it can be in a maltose extract, or when you're breaking down barley in your body. And lactose is from milk. You note, O's, tells me it's a sugar. Fructose, I can't think of any others. Fructose, obviously a sugar. What other sugars? Let's cut this out. So sucrose is my glucose and fructose coming together. And again, not a thing you have to remember. So looking here, this is my disaccharides, because there's two saccharides, monosaccharides stuck together. So we have little group here called a glycolic link. So that's where we've lost our water and those two monosaccharides have joined up. So our two monosaccharides are here and here. They've lost some water and they've joined up here. The next one is our lactose, again from milk. And we've got that group here. So how's it happening? I'll show you a poorly drawn diagram to work it out. So I went with maltose, which is just two glucoses. So there's a glucose and a glucose, taken from the book. There's the book, there is mine. It's fairly similar. So what happens is we have condensation, so this water here is lost. And we've got an oxygen joining in there. So that oxygen we had that was over here is here. We've got, oh no, we've got water over here. So this is our disaccharide because there's two of them. Next step would be my polysaccharide. We do have oligosaccharides, which is 3 to 10, but we don't really look at those. It's just a term you need to know. We're then jumping from disaccharides to polysaccharides. These have a high molar mass because we've got lots and lots of monomers joining together. Normally insoluble and tasteless. So we've got maybe 200-300, maybe up to 1,000 of these different monomers joining together to make a polysaccharide. So the three examples you need to know are starch, glycogen and cellulose. And again, those are in the book in some form or other. So we'll start with starch. So starch is our plant-based carbohydrates. So it's from corn and wheat and etc. And it's made up of glucose monomers, which is part of the reason why when we talk about carbohydrates in like popular culture, so when we talk about them, if you're looking at a magazine or something and they say avoid carbs, the reason there is because of this breaking down to make sugar. So it's that breaking down to make sugar that we use the sugar for energy, and when we don't use them for sugar for energy, it becomes stored as other things. So that's the bit. So our starch gives us two comes off 2 different polymers. So it's 2 different polymers. So our first is amylopectin. So we've got our condensation happening here. So we've got these linkages here. But what's happened, because we have this group up here, and then we would have another group, this OH from down here. No, from an OH be on that side. That one. This one here. Bonding with this one up here. If we think of it as being different ones. We can have a condensation happening here. So this would lose the water from here. And then the water from here. So each of these would be a loss of water from here. This would happen, it happens about every 20 or so monomers. And it is a structural thing that changes its solubility and changes like how it is, because it's got all these branches. I'll include a good picture and things. So they've got all these branches, and all those branches can kind of tangle up and make it a different structure to if we didn't. The other part that makes up starch is amylose. So this amylose is just one long kind of straight chain that forms a coil like this. And then you can see we've got these just here and here. What we've got here is an N and these brackets, and that tells you that it's just large. They might say, you know, it's 500 or 200 or whatever. It just says this is one that is got certain things, but there's no point keep on going. It just is large one. Then our final one, again, which they don't include, it's almost like they want you to have some of them, but not everything, is our glycogen. So glycogen is similar to amylopectin, but has more branches. So it has about twice as many branches. Every 10 we have this branch happening, and is used in the body to store sugar. So that's our overview. Really quick and so simple, but really quick. So we have monomers. The monomers are given to you that you need to know, apart from this one. They all have the same number of carbons, hydrogens and oxygens, which makes the rest of it come on pretty easy. We can put them together in condensation and lose the water, and we get these little bonds here and here, and that depends on where these are pointing. So if they're pointing up or down, it's going to lead to these different structures here. That's our alpha and beta. We can then get many monomers put together to make polymers, and that gives us cellulose. We've got cellulose, which I didn't talk about. Amylopectin, amylose, and glycogen. So our cellulose is up here. Again, it's quite straight, long kind of chains. Important because it makes up lots of plant structure thing. Because of this chain, it can kind of just become quite structural. It kind of builds up on itself. Hard to digest if you're a human. Easy to digest if you're a cow. So that's our overview of that little bit. Have a look at some questions. Come back to me if there's anything you need a hand with.